Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says her proposed Sovereignty Act will defend the rights of Albertans, but the Mayor of Calgary is worried it will actually strip them of their rights. That's because if passed, Smith's cabinet could direct municipalities to ignore federal laws. Calgary Mayor Jyoti Gondek joins me now. So Mayor Gondek, what is your main concern with this new Sovereignty Act?
I think it's a little bit vague in terms of the powers that this provincial government could give itself if this passes. And it's a little bit subjective when they talk about things that might be harmful to our province. Who defines what harmful means? And I think it's also very interesting that they're going after unprecedented interference and overreach from the federal government is how they describe it. And yet they are doing the very same thing to municipalities in this province right now.
Right, so on that point, as written right now, the legislation would allow cabinet to direct provincial entities, municipal police forces, school districts, regional health authorities, the City Council of Calgary, I would presume, not to enforce federal laws. I mean, what's your response to that, and would you obey if directed not to enforce a federal law?
It's a pretty dangerous scenario if you think about it playing out. I mean, if they direct us in a manner, let's use an example that says you can't accept any federal funding directly, what does that do to our affordable housing strategy? Right now, we're able to access rapid housing initiative funds as they are dispersed by the federal government. Our population is desperately in need of affordable housing. So if we get a directive that we can't accept money, that puts us in a really dire position. So no matter how you slice this, it's going to be really tough for municipalities to actually govern and serve their people.
How do you approach it, though? I know it's still in the early stages of the legislative process, and we have yet to see a resolution in the Alberta legislature, but the Premier has voiced her opposition, for example, to the gun regulations that the federal government is contemplating. How do you anticipate the Calgary Police Services would react if ordered not to enforce gun laws?
I think we're all going to be in an incredibly precarious position, and I really hope people start speaking up. I would say that any organization that is a provincial entity is going to be in trouble, either with federal regulators or with the province, depending on what we choose to do. It's a no-win for any of us, so I really hope people start speaking up. I would encourage people to call their provincial representatives, because the weakness being demonstrated by MLAs right now, who know this act is not good, the weakness being shown is going to cost us dearly if they don't say we have to stop this.
So the Premier said yesterday she was open to amendments. I mean, what are the biggest changes you would like to see made to the Sovereignty Act as it exists right now?
Well, if there is an issue with how the federal government is treating us, I would highly recommend going and speaking with official representatives. Build a relationship, voice your concerns, do the very best that you can before you bring in this type of legislation, because this legislation is only going to send a signal to the federal government that it's going to cost every provincial entity. They are taking this not seriously enough. It is going to be incredibly hurtful for provincial entities, and it's not going to do much to the federal government. So it's not accomplishing what she wants it to do.
There was some concern expressed by the Calgary Chamber of Commerce that the legislative framework under the Sovereignty Act will create a significant amount of economic uncertainty. It could drive investment away from the province at a time where you're trying to attract a lot of capital for the green transition that the provincial economy needs to undergo. What concerns did you have about what this might mean for the business environment and the overall Alberta economy?
So as a city, we have actively launched many campaigns and initiatives to demonstrate to investors and potential residents that we are a great place to live. We're welcoming, we're inclusive. There's a wide variety of businesses that you could practice in our city. And while we are doing that and investing $295 million towards a downtown recovery, while we are trying to strengthen our economy, this provincial government has made us look incredibly incompetent. So I would say to any investors that are out there and anyone that's listening out east, this provincial government is not reflective of who we are as municipalities here. We are driving our economies forward, we are doing good work, and we are a welcoming place.
So can this bill be amended in a way that it will actually help the province's economic growth, or is this something that doesn't need amendments so much as scuttling in your view?
In my opinion, it should not be brought forward. I hope it doesn't see second or third reading. The very fact that it's called a Sovereignty Act tells you everything you need to know about it. In an environment where we should be collaborating with partners at a time that we really need strong investment in our country, in our cities, and in our province, this is not the way to go about building those collaborative relationships and sending a signal of stability.
You say you hope it doesn't go ahead, but Premier Smith seems pretty determined to go ahead with this. It is bill number 1, after all, and sort of a centerpiece of her legislative agenda. I mean, what do you think the likelihood is of this being amended in a way that you can be comfortable or stopped entirely?
I can't imagine it being amended in a way that wouldn't have overreach of some sort. So I really hope the folks that ran for leadership that were so blatantly opposed to this actually step up to say, to do what they said they would do and stop this. So far, no one said anything. And I find it incredibly disingenuous that during a campaign, you would fight against this. And now that you have the power to stop it, you're just falling in line and being complicit. So I'm not sure what's going on at the provincial level right now.
Okay. Mayor Gondek, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
You too.